Well, I think we are live at TAF, and I'm going to give it a few minutes for people to join. Um, we really appreciate your comments and questions. We want this to be interactive. Tonight, we're going to talk about the road to healing. When I was in the middle of my stuff, I was advocating to get my now ex-husband out of prison, and when it all made sense, when it all came together that I was under abuse, it was pretty devastating. And I crashed. There was a season of just crashing and fog and darkness and crying and mourning. And I know Melody will talk more about not everyone maybe has this process. Some people experience a moment of numbness, but that really those emotions, there was that moment of crying and mourning and all of that. And I never thought I could smile again. I could laugh again. My family was broken. I tried everything to save my marriage. I thought that that's what's best for me. That's what's best for my kids. And when it fell apart, I thought, this it's just going to be hard and painful for the rest of my life. And it's just I didn't see light at the end of the tunnel at all.
Mhm.
And I know some of you who are watching might be experiencing some of the same stuff. You might be in the middle of your abuse, going through divorce, or have gone through divorce. But you might feel like, is this ever going to get better? And tonight is about giving hope that yes, it does get so much better. So let's start talking about it. Again, please leave your comments. If I squint my eyes as I'm trying to read your comments without having to wear my glasses. So
I love glasses.
on some of the videos, I'm trying to be tricky. So anyways, I will start with a little bit of my healing process, and
Yeah.
then Melody, you can add. A few months ago, I think I shared kind of like right in the middle of the COVID stuff.
Hmm.
One day I just got out of the shower. I had no makeup on, nothing, and the Lord was like, "Look at yourself." And it was really hard for me to look at myself without makeup. And um, some of you might remember me before I was covered with makeup. I had a different face. I had a mask on. And because over the years in my marriage, actually from the moment had met my husband, he had said, your dark skin is ugly, dark hair is ugly, your eyebrows, your nose, you need to do surgery. And I just realized as I was actually looking through photos, I started piling up so much makeup. And about a few months ago, the Lord was like, "No, you are beautiful in me. Find confidence in me." And that was part of my healing. And so I didn't realize it because I'd kind of been in this journey of healing. I realized the abuse I was under in 2015, so it'd been 5 years, and then my divorce had been final 3 years. So I thought there was a lot of healing that had already happened, but with this makeup stuff, I realized there's so much more, so many more layers that the Lord was peeling away. And then recently, even in the last, again, few months during COVID, I felt like I could love again or someone could love me again. It's interesting, not that I don't know, I might stay single for the rest of my life, but that this emotion, I realized something's healing because any mention of any relationship scared me so much until 2 months ago. Like I would freak out, I would have PTSD, whatever. I was just done with anything. And so those are things I've noticed in my own life, that there's healing, there's laughter, that God has brought back to my life. And I just laugh and smile a lot. Um, and so I just want to say there's hope. It took a long time and it took focus on the Lord. And Melody, can you talk about that kind of like where our confidence comes from and where healing comes from, where if you want to talk a little bit about that, and also the mourning process, like sometimes you feel numb. And so,
Yeah. When I separated, I was coming from a place of significant numbness, and it had been years. I knew I had this tangible numbness in my body and in my spirit. My emotions and everything for years were very numb. And so but I still was able to, this sounds bad, but I was still crying when I was married. And then as soon as I separated, I stopped crying. There was some freedom there. It's crazy.
Mm.
But then at the same time, you feel like, well, you have these strong emotions. You should be crying. You know, there's really difficult challenges that are coming up. But I lost the ability to cry. It was like a switch of some kind. But you know, that process was really unexpected, and I'm still working on healing in that area. But I want to tell you how much freedom and recovery and healing I had from embracing the full identity I have, belonging to God alone, you know. And I did seek counseling from beautiful women of God as I was recovering, and one of them had to keep telling me, "You only belong to God," because I
You
was
are his. That was my
under.
favorite verse. I wore this necklace. I am his and he is mine. And that brought so
Love it.
much healing to know I was his
Yeah.
bride, his daughter, his beloved.
Yes. And there's no need to ever question God's dissatisfaction with you, right? And so I had been in this mental state of perpetual dissatisfaction to a person. I was displeasing and dissatisfying and unappealing, you know, just
Mhm.
criticized. And so that kind of had warped my impression of what God felt of me. And I felt I was a huge disappointment. And that was totally false. When I was able to embrace that I was cherished by God and loved by Him, and He sang over me and He delighted, and I could enter the throne room of grace boldly, I have a legacy of beauty through my relationship of God, and I can offer my children these spiritual gifts that God has given me, you know, and pass these things on. I just like became a new person, and it wasn't like I needed to change my spirituality in any way. It was just clarity, right? Like a new life, you know, springing forth, and just the growth in areas that had been asleep, you know, and I had just this. It almost felt like a weight was lifted. You know, there was a lot of oppression that was kind of affecting my overall livelihood. And physically, you know, that can take a toll too. We both have talked about that. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I was talking both to Gretchen, who wrote Life Saving Divorce, and also,
Sarah McDougall.
yes, thank you. You know what name, yeah,
Yeah.
anyways. And a lot of women actually do better physically after they come out of the abuse. Sometimes we continue to struggle. I definitely, my health improved, but I still struggle with autoimmune.
Yeah.
And it's sad that we have to, that those emotional toils and sometimes physical, there was physical abuse in my marriage as well. They do take their toll on you physically. And so we're both dealing with autoimmune and different things. And it is what it is, but I feel stronger. I feel happier. And like you said, the focus has been the Lord. And there's the temptation to try to fill that hole with other people, with other things to get find your worth or confidence. But for me, it was Christ. And when you get that confidence and that joy from Christ, not another man, or friend or whatever, or alcohol or whatever it is, those things go away and then you're back to your darkness. But when you find it in Christ, no one can take it away from you. And so, yeah, I have to say about your numbness, I think there's seasons God allows numbness in our life to protect us from something.
True.
It's just too much to feel all those emotions.
That's true.
And for me, I've seen that where there's times where I have been numb and I realized if I felt so much at that time, I would have crumbled. It was already
Wow.
I was already so fragile. So I think for those of us who have moments of numbness or are still numb and saying, why am I not crying? I was such an emotional person before. And I
Yeah.
think it's just trusting God. It's okay to have seasons of numbness and to know that God's using that.
I,
Yeah.
Same thing of fear, actually. I had been, you know, in a state of chronic fear for a long time. It was kind of an undercurrent. You know, it wasn't something that was on the forefront of my mind day to day, but that hypervigilant state of anticipation and the,
Yes.
the reactionary abuse that you can often kind of sense is coming. It was
Mm-hmm.
always that way. And just the fear that comes with that, um, I was recently reading some materials about it, and it was talking about how our instinctual reaction of fear is actually a form of self protection.
Mm.
And when you're recovering and you're coming out of these states of, or going through states of numbness or going through states of fear up and down, it's okay to pray about these things and ask God to help you recover and help take these things from you. But also say, thank you, God, for creating me with these abilities, these emotional abilities where you've quieted me or you have helped me defend myself, internally
Mm.
or externally defending ourselves.
Mm.
Internally, we were protecting ourselves, and we can tell ourselves, "You're safe now."
Mm.
You know.
Well, it's kind of like danger. It's telling you danger, danger. So those feelings are coming up, and a lot of times in our dating period or others, we push that aside, whereas we should have listened to it and
Mm.
listen to those red flags. So
Yes.
yeah, it's God's, and I do want to say there's one thing we discussed, no looking back. That's part of the healing. For the first few years when I was still recovering, I did look back. What is he doing? What's going on? What if I would have done that? And what if I had stayed shorter, not as long? What if I picked up, seen all these red flags early on? But I think part of the healing is really to move forward and stop looking back and stop, I guess, feeling regret over things. For me, one way I've been able to do that is to know that God has used all of that for my spiritual growth.
Yes.
I'm a different person. I'm not the girl I was in my 20s, and I love that. That girl was very immature, and she was very, I mean, she was also the daughter of the king, but I love where God has taken me spiritually, and understanding other people's pain, having more compassion, not being as judgmental and harsh, and just so much growth that I can say yes, I'm thankful for that. If that was to happen again, if I could change anything, I would allow that my life to go through that again. And
Yes.
because and like you said, part of our healing is these amazing friendships that
Mhm.
God has brought in our life. And I'm like, wow, I feel so rich right now with woman friendships that are just, they just bless my heart. Like every time we talk, every time I look at our Facebook lives and I'm like smiling, I'm like, every time I see you, it's
Yeah.
like such a joy. Every time we talk, we interact, we pray. And Miriam and Ann
Mhm.
and others who God has brought, my friend Mary, who I recently interviewed. There's
Yeah.
so many people God has brought that you just genuinely enjoy talking to one another and growing and being sisters. And,
Yeah.
I didn't have that in my marriage. I couldn't choose my friends. I couldn't have these connections. So that's part of the healing, having these woman friendships. And, not looking back, I realized it's been months that I haven't looked back to see what my ex is doing or what
Mhm.
he's up to, or it doesn't matter. Like I've moved on. And that I realized that's a big part of my healing, because I did look back a lot, wondering, is he going to repent? What is that going to look like for our family? But
Mhm.
it's just, so that's part of the healing process.
True.
Um,
I like the idea of getting to a point of acknowledgement where it's okay, like acceptance of our past and our tragedies. Acceptance.
Acceptance. I love that. Yeah, go ahead, explain that more.
Yeah, because I felt myself continually resisting any form of um, discontentment. Like I wanted to resist my circumstances all the time. Like
Mm.
think more positively, or don't make a mistake in the future. Like just always. Maybe it was a perfectionist kind of perspective too. With
That's how I was the perfectionist.
yeah, and honestly, with more uh, um, acceptance of who I am in God and who God sees me as and His child, and He takes delight in me just as I am, I could kind of ease back on holding myself to standards that were really uncomfortable and not
Mm.
what God intended. And so, allowing myself to be accepting of my past and also to say, well, that pain was my teacher. As
Mm.
odd as that sounds, when you're in the pain, it doesn't maybe feel comfortable to say, but on reflection, I think, wow, that was quite an education. You know what I mean?
It's like when you touch something hot, you're like, I'm not going to do that again. It,
Yeah.
it is a powerful teacher when you experience it firsthand.
And then I relate with you so much on the depth of connection that you can find with
Mm.
women who, and there's, women and men have also have, experienced tragedy and suffering, and
Mhm.
the level of connection changes when you find people who have similar paths. And that is really fulfilling to me, and to be able to help people too.
Yeah, I remember you said your mom said, "What do you like to do?" That's
Yeah.
such a foreign concept when your whole I guess marriage has been revolved around how do I make this person like become a slave to this person making them happy and someone saying, "What do you like? What do you like to do?" And it's like, "Oh, wait a minute. What do I like? I don't know. I haven't thought about that."
Yeah, I wasn't, when my mom asked me that, I wasn't able to answer that question. I told her laundry.
Cooking,
Oh,
I've been doing laundry and cooking and
that's
cleaning.
all we do: laundry and dishes and cooking and cleaning. And my house looked nice. I mean, I wasn't, it was effective, but in the long term, that's not what God created us to be. Not to invest in just works, right? And so I just,
Discovering our you wrote this. I'm
yeah,
just cheating off of your what you wrote. Discovering what God has given, the gifts God has given us, and saying, what is
yeah.
it? What is the gift? What does God want me to do? And it's for me, it's and for you too. It's been ministering to other women, and also just doing different things that we like to do and really enjoying it, and that has been healing. And you said something about trauma that when you're under that kind of trauma, you tend to be a perfectionist. You really tend to go go go. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, there's a form of prevention in your mind that you're always hoping to prevent doing something wrong or displeasing the person who is oppressive.
Mhm.
So the challenge is that it's not an attainable place. Whether you're looking at perfectionism in a relationship or perfectionism in any other area of your life, it's really not attainable. And it was, I think, somewhat of a trauma response that
Mhm.
you just want to be loved, and so you're
Mhm.
thinking about all these avenues, like, I'll do this better, I'll submit better, I'll be respectful in a different way. And really what it boils down to is that God is intentional about creating us to be and have the character that we have with purpose. And if
Mhm.
we are seeking Him and we're seeking to grow according to the purpose that He has for our lives and investing in the fruit, that He intends for us to give, then there's nothing more fulfilling than that. And so I've first started to recover from perfectionism by striving for just progress. Like, I wanted
Mhm.
progress in my relationship with God and my relationship with my children and healing.
Mhm.
And then I advanced from progress to presence.
Mhm.
So
Oh yeah, I love that.
I graduated, and I love to just be present with the Lord and be present with my family. Really, like, allowing my mind to
And to
engage.
enjoy it, enjoy just little things being, and people that that are watching right now, and again, if you want to comment or anything, that we would love to do, answer your questions or comments. But our situation hasn't necessarily gotten better. We're still going through struggles, but we can laugh. It's like the
Yeah.
Proverbs 31 woman, that she can laugh without fear of future. And I shared recently, I still have my ups and downs with anxiety, and
Mhm.
there's things, as I'm sure there's single moms out there or single dads or whoever has gone through stuff that, and as a human being, there's a lot of unknowns in the future, and so but really, like, we can smile and laugh with no fear of the future because of the Lord. And the moments that those fears creep in, we look back to Him, and He frees us of the burden, and we can laugh again. And so when I
Yeah.
see you, I know your story, I know all the stuff you're still going through, and I see a smile, and I want people to know that this is not because everything's great in our life. There's no
Mhm.
obstacle, there's no drama, but it's because of the Lord that we can smile no matter what our circumstances. And He's giving us healing where, like you said, we can be in the moment. We can enjoy little things our children are doing, our parents are, you know, pets. We'll go on a walk and look at ducks and I just smile and just little things. It's enjoying life and being present
Yeah. And
where
you
you're
know
at.
what gave me a lot of freedom to let go of my fear and get to that place of really finding joy was experiencing unconditional love.
Hmm.
You know, really focusing on the fact that God's love is completely unconditional.
Hmm.
He loves us in spite of who we are. And
And to
he does
really let that sink in.
us. Because any tragedy could happen to me at this point, and I would have peace because God loves me unconditionally. There's no oppression, no conditional oppression
Hmm.
close to me. You know,
Yeah.
that that I can say was one of the hardest parts about domestic abuse and emotional abuse.
And I do want to say something else. You mentioned that when we are in those abusive situations, we're perfectionists, and part of it is because we're told we have to be. There's anger
Mm,
when there's any mistake or anything,
yeah.
and you're going so like a hamster wheel, I guess. I always compare things to hamster wheels, but because we have hamsters, um, and then, but there is a moment of crash, and I think we both had that, and
Mm-hmm.
thank God we've had moms who have ministered to us. We've had parents. I know some people don't have that. And that's my prayer is that I have really amazing friends that haven't had that, unfortunately, someone who can pick them back up. But I've tried to be that for other women who don't have that support system to help them recoup, maybe take out some of their weights. I've had a lot of single moms come in and out of my house. I've had single moms live at my house.
Wow.
I've babysat a lot. A few days ago, I think you called me and it was like noisy. I was babysitting. I'm like, let me take your kids. I don't know what else to do. So you can take a nap, so you can work on your court stuff, whatever it is. So I try to do that, but it's good to allow people to help you because there is a time where you do crash and
Mm-hmm.
you do need someone to bring you food, take care of your kids, be there for you. And we all need that. And as Christians, we're part of a body, and we really need to function as a body and really work together. When someone's hurting, someone's in need, to really be there to pick them
Yeah.
up and get messy.
It can be messy. I would say that we are, as mothers, very inclined to treat our children with gentleness and tenderness. But there are so many times when I found myself struggling to allow myself gentleness, in my own direction. And so it wasn't until, I had some healing had gone by, but I had a friend recently who separated. And she was like, I'm so disappointed in myself. I take my kids out to eat every day because I can't cook. And I'm like,
It is what
if
it
that's
is.
what you and you do that because you're being good to yourself, you're being gentle with yourself, you're not forcing yourself to do things that you feel incapable of right now.
And some moms feel guilty that they don't have the perfect routine they used to have, and that's fine. I mean, I think the kids also need a little bit of a break when they're going through the breakup, and not, it's okay to not have this perfect routine and to eat out more, and to make easy meals instead of these amazing gourmet, organic, whatever. It's okay. Give yourself grace. It's okay to just take a break and really take a breath and not be the perfect mom, I guess, in some ways that you think as being perfect. But actually, I notice with my kids, the
Mhm.
calm in the house is more important than being stressed out about making the perfect meal.
It's so true. And what chapter did you read to your kids over and over again as you were healing?
Oh, you need to read that. So the first year, that I think a majority of 2016, we read Psalm 23 almost every single night. Now there was different versions. We read
Yeah.
through the Bible, but there was also a book called a Shepherd's take on Psalm 21 and 23. So we just read it and we just absorbed it. We would read verse by verse and say, what do you think this means? And we just read it every night. And I have to say, actually, for that year, we lived in the book of Psalms in
Yeah,
general. But Psalm 23, if you want to read it, it's just so soothing. I would just read it with my kids, and it was so soothing for all of us to just
I
read it.
yeah, I still find it really soothing. Actually, it brings me so much comfort to read it,
Yeah.
and so I'll read it to everyone watching. The
Okay.
Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters, and he restores my soul. He leads
Restore.
me in the path of righteousness
Mm.
for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, which feels like
Mm-hmm.
what we were in, I will fear no evil. Fear can rest now.
Mm.
You are with me, your rod and your staff comfort me. He's our defender.
Mm.
You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup runs over.
Mm.
Surely goodness and mercy, oh, that's so good, shall
I
follow me
know.
all the days
Amazing.
of my life. Goodness and
All the days of.
ah, yes, forever. And I will dwell in the Lord in the house of the Lord forever.
Mm.
So
That's just such a beautiful promise. And to know we have a shepherd who is so loving and so kind. And I think I've said this before, the kindness and gentleness of God is what set me free a lot. Like it was a big part of my healing. Like, God, you're gentle. Like I wasn't dealt with gentleness by the only man that I knew that was supposed to be gentle with me. There was harshness and anger. And
oh,
so knowing that God is kind, I was just like, every time I would read in the Bible that God is kind and gentle, I would just bawl.
oh
And there was so much healing to go to know that I could go to a kind God, to a
yeah,
loving God.
I love that.
And his presence, he's so real. We serve a living God.
Yeah.
We're not in a religion where we're following rules to get to God. We are in a relationship that is the most amazing relationship, closer than a brother, closer than a friend, closer than a parent, closer than a spouse, that really I can see it in your face, Melody, how radiant you are. He revives us. He refreshes us. No other human being could do that for another human being. He
No.
brings joy to our life. He takes away fear. Who
Mm,
does that? And may this be a testimony of our God. And
amen.
so, as women who've gone through some rough times, and I do want to also say, as I've gone through some crazy stuff, and God
Mhm.
has truly refreshed me with His love, it's been God has used it to be able to testify to other women who don't know Christ,
Exactly.
and of why I have this hope, I have this joy,
Yeah.
even though I'm in a still very hard situation. And so we can be a testimony of God's greatness through our brokenness. So,
So true.
and that brings healing. The more God uses our story to help
Mm-hmm.
others and to see people getting saved, the more we're healed as well. That's part of our healing process.
Totally. I agree. Thank you, Nagme, for sharing that. I just feel, I mean, I could listen to your story every day. It's so
Me too.
it's
It's
good.
so good to
Very,
talk to women who've gone through different things,
yeah.
but the same message that you look to God and there's healing, and I just want to finish with this.
Yeah.
There is light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't think there was. I literally thought I'm gonna be walking around in life with my limbs cut out.
Uh,
I'm not gonna be the same. It's just gonna be painful all the days of my life. And
yeah.
I'm going to carry this pain. And there's moments I still remember things and I cry. But looking back, there's been so much healing and so much joy and so much peace. And my relationship with God has gotten so much better, so much closer. So I just want to encourage you, whatever you're going through, um, there is light at the end of the tunnel. It will get better.
Yeah.
Find like-minded women. Connect with us in this page at TAF Woman Connect. Send us messages. We would love to talk to you. get just get close with another woman
Mm-hmm.
and share your story and just and God will
You'll
bring
restore.
healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I did come to the same place of utter hopelessness and just not questioning, because you lose so much when you separate, and there's a really bad misconception that separating is selfish. I don't know, in the
Yeah.
church there's this separation is selfish and ungodly, but it was life saving, and then you lose everything. You just come to this place of new beginnings. And we should post a link to that video we did on this topic that's about identity, starting over, and everything like that. Did we get any comments?
No one has made any comments.
Okay.
So I do want to, I know I keep saying I want to finish with this, but Israelites were delivered from Egypt, bondage. They had to walk through the wilderness. It wasn't all of a sudden the garden, the promised land. For some reason, God walked them through some really difficult time. And there was times they looked back and the past looked familiar. It looked, like you said, there's something, you lose a lot of things. And there was comfort in knowing, okay, we were in bondage, but at least it was familiar. The wilderness is not familiar. And they had to depend on God for food and water and the cloud for when it was to protect them from the sun, and then the fire at night for warmth and light. And God
Yeah.
just took care of them. And it was hard. It was the desert. It was the wilderness. It was hard. And there was big giants. But as they looked to God, uh,
Yes.
he did take care of them. And so may we not be like the Israelites that grumbled and nagged and were just, and saying, oh, I wish we'd go back. May we look forward and say, okay, Lord, I am in the middle of wilderness. It is super hard, but you are carrying me. Every little water you give me, every little bread, it matters. And he gave his law, the Ten Commandments, in the wilderness, that he revealed who he was. The law of God reveals who he was. So he revealed more of himself to his people in the wilderness. So I just encourage you, it might seem like the wilderness, but don't look back and say, oh, well, that was at least comfortable. At least I had my family together. Yeah, I was being abused, but there was some comfort. My home wasn't broken. I was in a home. There was more financial security, whatever. So I just encourage that. That really helped me heal as I read about the Israelites coming out of bondage from Egypt and how God was just so tender and kind and providing for them. So until
Good.
next week, we're going to do another topic. If you guys have certain topics, we have a list of topics we want to go through. But if you have topics you want us to talk about, let us know. Otherwise, we'll talk till next week. God
Yeah.
bless.
Thanks. Bye.